Welcome to the Ultimate Dental Podcast, the place where you can learn how to create a dental practice and a business life that you love. Listen in with Dr. David Moffat as he interviews successful entrepreneurs and successful business people and successful dentists as they share their business successes, their stories, and their breakthrough ideas, sharing pearls of wisdom that you can take back to your practice and implement immediately so that you can have that great practice with more patients, higher profits, and less stress. This is the podcast where great dental practices meet with successful business processes. Thanks for tuning in to the Ultimate Dental Podcast, the podcast where thought leaders, industry experts, and thriving practice owners reveal their very best tips, tools, and strategies that will help you grow your dental practice faster. Now, here's your host, Dr. David Moffat.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Ultimate Dental Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. David Moffat. It is Wednesday morning, about 10 minutes before 10 o'clock here in Burrawang in New South Wales, and gives me great pleasure to welcome to the studio all the way across the other side of the world and still a day behind, Laura Nelson in San Diego. Laura, welcome to the Ultimate Dental Podcast studio. Great to have you.
I am so excited to be here. This is something you and I have been trying to plan for a while, so thank you very much.
That's right. And it's interesting. We have met. I always like to tell my listeners and viewers that we have met. We met at a SCN meeting a long time ago, maybe 8 or 9 years ago, as you were coming into SCN. And I think it's been, sadly for me, I have not been to the United States. I travel a lot there, but I have not been there since COVID. And COVID just changed a lot of behaviors, and we started working from home, which was really, really nice. But San Diego is an interesting place. I've been there too, and it's right in the bottom corner of the United States. It's the closest thing climate-wise, as I was telling you, to Sydney, Australia. So when I talk to Americans from the East Coast where they get snow in cities, which is really foreign, I tell them, no, it's like San Diego, but without the earthquakes. But it's a lovely climate and very much like Sydney and very much like Australia. Laura, you've been in dentistry for a while, so let's talk about your life leading into dentistry and then through dentistry up to where you are now, because you're now the Vice President of AI for Mango, which now I remember when I was in San Diego, all I could see was oranges being delivered off container ships. So mango's not a fruit; it's actually an AI product, or it's a voice product. But let's start at the start and how you got into dentistry and how you progressed to Mango.
Okay, perfect. Well, you asked me earlier how long. It's a long time ago. I was an undergrad and I met a guy and said, what do you want to be when you get older? He said, a dentist or mechanic. Well, you can guess he decided to be a dentist. And so he went to dental school when we were newly married. And I got my master's degree. My bachelor's degree is in human resources and my master's degree is in organizational development. So I was doing the business route, right? I was a recruiter in sales and marketing and change management. And he graduated from dental school and we had two little kids, a 1 and a 2-year-old, and he decided to open his own practice. And I know in dental school, they didn't teach him anything about business. They taught him how to be a dentist. So I thought, we have 2 little kids at home. Somebody's got to run the office. And so that's how I got into dentistry. I didn't know anything about dentistry at the time. I knew how to hire, fire, train, lead, do all the business stuff, but had to learn all about dentistry. And you'll know some of these names. I remember first time I went to a conference, I saw Linda Miles, and she taught me everything. I was writing notes of like how to run a practice and every article. And I just learned the dental side of things. We were on the East Coast. That's where we opened our practice. And in 2007, we moved to the West Coast, to San Diego. We chased the oranges, we chased the sun, we chased the weather, and we opened a second practice here on the West Coast. Now we are in Southern California. So Southern California has a lot more dentists, a lot more competition, a lot more insurance, a lot of competition because Mexico is 20 minutes away. So a lot of people will go to Mexico to get their dentistry done. So there's a lot more challenges the second time. But we opened a second practice. And over those 2 times, I had a lot of people asking me, to come in and consult and coach their offices because we were very successful in both of our practices. And, go into SCN and ADOM and ADMC and all of that. I knew that I didn't want to be a consultant. Like I didn't want to go in offices and work in the offices, but I knew that something needed to change when it came to the teams. I felt like we weren't training the team members enough. We hire the new employees and we throw them to the wolves. Here's the insurances we belong to. Here's our doctors' names. Here's the phones. Go. Here's the software we use. Go. And my background being training and HR and organizational development, I found that niche of let's start training our employees correctly from the first day and then do continual training. We have the internet now. We have the opportunity to do 24/7, training right there in the office. So I started filming videos, basically all the different things that we do in the front office. Back then it was short form video, which was 10 minutes long, maybe. Now short form's like, 60 seconds, and got really good advice because at that time, everybody was making DVDs. Linda Miles and Lois Banta, and everybody had their 60-minute training videos. And I did subscription-based websites. So Front Office Rocks is the name of the company. And it's still the biggest LMS, learning management system for front office in at least the United States for dental offices. And it's subscription based. So people would, just pay and have access to train their teams. And so I grew that. That's when you and I met. I was young, trying to grow this business. Sold it about 8 years ago-ish to a company. I was going to join in with a bigger team and try to build a bigger thing right before COVID. COVID hit, changes the trajectory of a lot of companies. That company didn't make it. They got bought by another company. So that company owns Front Office Rocks now. And I work with them and still speak on behalf of it. And I still help them with new content. But during that time, I started, writing more, speaking more, and found AI. And AI for me is a game changer because I've been teaching for a long time that the things that we need to focus on are systems and customer service for our patients. Like we can't do anything about the dentistry, but we can do a lot about we can do stuff about dentistry, but we can also impact the experience. But there's never enough time in the day. That's the biggest thing is there's just so much stuff to do. Well, when I discovered AI, I was like, this is the thing that we need to give our team members time back in their day. And so I got real into AI the last couple of years and found Mango Voice. Mango Voice is a phone system, and they have an AI solution for notes. And they were starting to build their AI phone agent. So their after hours, nights and weekends AI agent. And during this time, I was talking to so many AI companies that are coming into our industry, and they have the next great thing that's going to save our practices. It's going to be amazing. But they don't know dentistry. They don't know how we operate. They don't know how the front office operates or what the doctor really needs. And so I started advising more and more people of you need somebody on your team or on their team that understands the problem they're trying to solve. And during that conversation, Mango said, why don't you come join our team and help us with the phones? And so I took that new opportunity in July. And so now I speak and train teams on AI, customer service systems, and I help build an AI product for our industry. So that's from not knowing anything about teeth, surfaces, dental codes, any of that, to now getting an opportunity to build hopefully the next, evolution of how we operate in a dental office.
That's cool. Such a long journey and still more to do, which is exciting. And that's because the world of AI is changing on a daily, weekly basis.
For
I
sure.
know that people say with AI receptionists, if you think it's bad today, don't worry. It'll be better next week. It'll be better in a month. It'll be better in 3 months. Are you finding that it's what you create has to be reviewed? You can't just build it and set it because like anything on the internet, once it's on the internet, it's already obsolete. So you've got to
Yeah.
be on top of management and suggestions.
I actually, yes, 100%. It changes fast and we need to still manage it. We still need to be involved in it. So an example of one office I was working with that has another AI agent, she turned the agent on a few months ago. And when I was testing it, the agent was quoting fees to me over the phone, giving me the rundown of the cost of the practice and procedures. And I said, did you teach the AI agent to do that? Did you teach, put it in its, in the agent? And she said, no, I've never done that. Well, the agent just went rogue and nobody had checked it and nobody had made sure. So you always want to have human in the loop because AI is going to do what AI is going to do sometimes. And we have to make sure that we're keeping up with the latest and that we're also making sure that we're managing it and that we're not letting it just take over the practice.
It's interesting, going out of dentistry. I looked at AI. I wrote blogs for twice a week for 12 years. That's a lot of writing. But a couple of
A
years
lot of
ago,
right.
I just said, I'm just rehashing stuff. But what I did do was I tried an AI blog, and I said, look, I'm setting up a dental office. What are the top 10 things I should do to market that dental office? And the AI gave me an article. And of those top 10 things, I knew from my lessons from Dan Kennedy that 7 of those didn't work. And so sometimes the AI data is sourcing from polluted database, corrupted database or old data. And so I
Yeah,
crossed that out, and then I ended up writing the article on the 3 that I knew did work, because Kennedy always said, if you're going to set up a business in a new town, just find out what everybody else is doing and then just do the opposite, and you'll be
there you
successful.
go. Especially dentistry, right?
Well, dentistry is exactly right, because one of the things that I did in my office back in the 90s, when inflation was running at 10%, was that I made sure that every year I put my fees up 10%, because if I didn't, I was giving myself a pay cut relative to the cost of living. And what I didn't do was I didn't check with my neighbours. And after 7 years, my fees were double what my neighbours were, because they weren't putting their fees up. And yet
Right.
my practice was very busy. And so it was, as you mentioned, customer service is a big thing, and that's also not taught in dental school either. And so that's dentistry is one of those places where nobody wants to be there. No
Mm,
patient ever wants to be there. No one wakes up on a Monday morning, Laura, and says, I got $500 left over. I'm going to see what I can get at the dentist today. Surely they'll have a
right.
few specials.
Yeah.
You don't go shopping at the dentist.
Yeah.
So it's a grudge buy. And so you really have to make it more than just about the size of your margins, or, the
Mhm.
tensile strength of your porcelain. Porcelain's got to
Mhm.
last. But it's got to. You've been in dentistry long enough to have seen some bad dentistry done by
Yeah.
really nice dentists who people loved, even though their dentistry was not that good. But
Yeah. One of the things,
you can see great
right?
dentistry, and those guys can't get people in the door.
Yep. One of the things that I say is if you go ask the average person who's not in the dental industry about their experience, they're not going to walk around going like, look at this margin, like, look at the shade match. Like they don't know what happens in maybe if we got them out of pain or cosmetic or something. But most of the time, what they're going to talk about is the experience on the phones or how easy it was to schedule or the hygienist or how they were greeted when they showed up or their experience with their family. Like it's about the experience a lot of times. Part of the reason I named my company Front Office Rocks is because I feel like we are rock stars. The front office team is the first and last impression of every appointment. And we need to act that way. We're not the front desk. We're not a piece of furniture. We are part of the team and we are the beginning and the end of the experience for the patient. And so we really need to lean into that.
I love that. You just used that word, front desk, and Howard Ferran says, why do we name a person after a piece of furniture? And it's not just, it is in dentistry, but I've seen signs, if you want to use the pool, go and ask the front desk. Like, ask a
Um,
piece of furniture. They're a person. So I'm always crossing out front desk and calling them the dental receptionist, the concierge. They are people in roles, not furniture. How did dentistry end up with that
It's
title?
actually funny you bring that up. So I had a dentist once. I was saying we're not a piece of furniture, and I said we're the only piece of furniture in the dental office, and he said no, I have a chair side, and I was like, okay, yeah. So there's two pieces of furniture, but really that's what it is. I mean, I think we treat it like just go to the girls in the front. Literally, I just filmed a video about this. I'm doing a webinar coming up about that very first phone call can impact the entire relationship with that patient from, I mean, case acceptance and referrals and all of that, that first phone call. And then when you actually think about what we do at the front office and how busy we are and answering the phones and, doing all the things, like we really need to respect the phone call and we really need to know the importance around it and also respect ourselves to know that we're not just the front desk. Like we are part of the bigger picture for the patients. The other word I don't like just on the side is somebody said this to me once about staff. Like I don't like the word staff now whenever I read it because staff's an infection. Like I want a team, right? I want coworkers. I don't want a staff. That just sounds gross. So that's another word that gets me when I read it. I'm like, ew, I want to change that.
Yeah, it's true. Yes, staph is an infection, but you're so correct. Dentists spend a lot of money and time organizing marketing that has a certain persona, and marketing, I started practicing dentistry when it was all about brass plates and making sure, dentists would run around measuring each other's brass plates if they were slightly too large or use bigger letters. But then marketing came in, but people have a perception as to who's going to answer the phone and what they're going to be told based on the marketing. So your phone message has to match. People have to be excited when the phone rings. But as you mentioned, in reality, you can be in a period of frustration because the doctor's just brought a patient out, the next patient walks in, and then the phone rings, and then another phone rings, and then somebody else comes in, and all of a sudden you're a juggler. And in the old days, you could juggle because you learnt to juggle because that's what phones were. But now it's just too easy to just default to voicemail. And you and I both know that nobody leaves a message on voicemail. They just go to the next number if it's a new patient. And there's some horror. I've heard some horror phone calls, listening to phone calls where somebody's been on hold for 10 minutes just to say, I'm just ringing to confirm. You left me a message about tomorrow's appointment. I'm just ringing to confirm. They've been on hold 10 minutes. That's not good customer service.
Well, one of the things that I talk about is in the front office of a dental office, we have to multitask. Like, there's no question. There's so many, like you said, so many things coming at you, but we wear multiple hats, right? You might be the insurance coordinator. You might be the psychiatrist. You might be the plumber. You might be the IT person. Like, you might be the receptionist or treatment coordinator. So we're wearing all these hats. When that phone rings, the trick is to take off of these hats that are all these other hats and answer the phone like a receptionist. Because how does an insurance person or a treatment coordinator answer the phone? Somebody who's analytical and in the weeds of things versus a receptionist is very different. But we have to remember when that phone rings, that could be our first impression for a new patient. But also besides that is most dental offices are losing patients out of the back door. We're losing more patients than we're getting in the front. That could be your existing patient that deserves to get that same amount of customer service, because every time your existing patient calls in, you want them to go, I love this office. I remember why I love this office. And a lot of times I'll see offices not only put them on hold, but they'll prioritize new patients over existing patients. And I'm not a super fan of that either, because I'm like, we're put so much emphasis on the new patients, but once they become a patient of ours, then we don't treat them as well. Like we don't get to their phone calls. We don't handle the things that they need. So there is a juggling act in the front desk, and training employees is key to that, because we bring in new employees and we just assume they're going to know how to handle these things. And we say, do good customer service. Well, customer service is a vague term. Like, what you think is good customer service might be different than what I think. And we really need to define that and then train our team members on it.
Well, one of the definitions of customer service is actually a complaints department.
Right.
People say, I've got a complaint. I'll go to the customer service department in a store, and you go, that's not service. The service should have happened. Then I wouldn't be at this counter. But you are so right at that. We don't train our people, and also in dentistry, where dentists are really bad at accepting anybody. Oh, you worked on the phones at Dr. Jones's office. Here's the phone, and you can't. You could be the best. You could make the best hamburgers at your home, but you can't go to McDonald's and cook your hamburgers. You've got to follow the McDonald's system. So every dental office should have a system and a process and a playbook of how the phone is meant to be answered. And just one little word here or there in the wrong place can change the whole emphasis of a greeting or a sentence, and it could be bad. It could be bad.
Yeah.
I once walked into my neighbor's office because I had to borrow. We ran out of nitrous oxide, and I said, have you got a spare cylinder? Yeah, I've got a spare cylinder. So I walked in there. The receptionist was behind the counter with her back to me and her head in a drawer, and she turned around and the greeting was this, "You're," and I go, "I beg your pardon?" She goes, "You're," and that was, I thought, is it a donkey talking to me? And that was like, "You are who? What's your name?" That was, "You're who?" And I'm going, "Sorry, I'm Dr. Moffat. There's a nitrous oxide cylinder I've come to borrow." I was just like, is that how they greet every patient?
Right. When we opened our practice, I was doing mystery calls into the offices near us, just to see how their prices were, get an idea of the practice. And I called an office across the street and from where we opened, and I said, I'm a new patient and I need a crown. My old dentist told me I need a crown. And I was just wondering, how much is your crown? And she said, well, it's kind of expensive. It's like $2,000. Do you have dental insurance? And I was like, that's how you answer. Like, it's kind of expensive. But now if you think about it, compared to her wage at that time, $2,000, and she's used to dealing with insurance or whatever. But I'm like, my just so everybody's kind of caught up here, I'm no longer married to the dentist. So I'm a recovering dental spouse. But my ex at the time, he's like, we have so much competition here. And I'm like, no, we don't have competition. Like, we could have 20 dentists on these street corners right around us, and we don't have competition if that's how they're answering the phones.
That's true, because as I said, I was putting my fees up. What I found was that my fee for a crown was 50% more than what my neighbor was charging. They were charging 2/3 of what I was charging because they stayed behind. And yet crowns made up nearly 50%. They made up 48% of my monthly income, because at that time I was treating baby boomers who were still working, who had big amalgam fillings that needed to be replaced with something that was going to last them from retirement to the grave, not something that was just going to be a drain on their savings, having to
Right.
have it patched and patched and patched. But it's exciting when you do create a point of difference in a dental office, and a lot of dentists don't believe that they can. But when you can, the thing they used to say about our office, local chamber of commerce, people would come, it was a business area, and they would say, all right, I'm new to this area. Where should I go to the dentist? And the word was, you got to go and see David. You've got to go to Active Dental. It's going to cost you a little more, but it's worth it. And I thought, that's the best endorsement you can ever have. And
Right.
and the other thing, Laura, when you put your prices up a little bit more, people think that you're better. And so you actually get more people who say, well, he charges more, he must be better. I'll go there because I don't want to get cheap and nasty work in my.
Which is important, then, that your team supports that, right? That
I
your
have
team
to.
handle those conversations, and they don't just like, oh, well, our prices went up again. Like, the team is part of how they describe this and the value that they give, because the patients are deciding whether or not they're going to spend money in your office from the very first phone call, right? Like, from the reviews that they get, like you said, the way somebody refers the office, they're making decisions from then forward to when they sit down and get presented the treatment.
We mentioned Dan Kennedy, and he told a story. He used to travel to his dentist he lived in Cleveland. His dentist was in Virginia, I think, and he was sitting in his dental office client lounge, and he heard the receptionist say to someone on the phone, you don't want to come here. It's too expensive. Go to Dr. X down the road. And so he told his dentist, guess who needed a new receptionist after that? But
Totally.
but
Totally.
that's their perception of value. And, back in the day, I had a receptionist who didn't like to talk money, so everybody left with an account, and we had to chase a lot of money that should have been collected on the day just because
Mhm.
that's how people thought. Now, thanks to COVID, everything's just tap and go, so cash doesn't exist anymore as a means of paying. But, yeah, times change. Let's talk about AI, because there is so much to talk about in AI because, as you know, a lot of the developers, they probably don't even go to the dentist because they're still so young. They're computer software guys. And I love it when on the news, when there's a cyber problem, the hackers are always wearing hoodies and you can only see the back of them. But that's because my son's a software engineer, and I say, yeah, where's your hoodie?
Yeah,
But
actually, it's funny because the average age of my team is younger than my kids. So, like, they're like, yeah, exactly. But they're the next generation to help us get through this. So, yeah.
But in a way, somebody's got to teach them, or they have to learn the dental way. You've been in dentistry so long, so you know the way of customer service and its importance in dentistry. You also know about insurance and whether you have an opinion that it's a necessary thing or we'd be all better off without it. That also is a belief within dentistry. Some people are afraid to leave insurance. Others never touched it and never wanted it. Others have been there and left it. There's so much knowledge that a software engineer designing things using a large language model will miss in trying to create a human experience from
Mhm.
an AI receptionist.
I just made a comment about a post yesterday that was about this, where a dentist asked for what's the best AI receptionist who can handle my phones. I'm a fee for service office and I want the AI to be able to explain it to the patients. And my response was, AI should not be explaining this to the patients. Like, AI doesn't understand the nuances, maybe one day, but right now, AI should not be handling this as a sensitive conversation. that if patients are asking about the details of fee for service and all of that, a human should be handling it. The goal of an AI receptionist is to get the patient to tell us who they are, why are they calling, what do they need to know, and get that to the human. And so I wouldn't rely on AI to get into the nuances of the fee for service conversation. But then I added to it that you've got to train your team members to be good at that, because there's a lot of team members who aren't good at that, right? And if you are a fee for service office, it's a balance of both. It's a balance of having a good AI receptionist and knowing what the AI should be doing and can handle, and then also leaning into the team, because AI receptionists shouldn't be here to replace humans. The humans are still needed for these harder conversations. Eventually, AI will handle a lot of it, but this part of the conversation, I still think that the human is the one that needs to have that conversation with the patient.
I'm with you on that, in that there is so much that the human brain has over the power of a computer. It's interesting. If you're a caller to a dental office and you get an AI agent that then transfers you to a person, what's the point of the AI agent in the first place? Why can't the human do that first filtering?
Well, so here's what and Margot's our AI agent at Mango. And Margot's not at this point yet, but where we see Margot getting to is Margot will be the first one to answer the phones, because the reason that we have overflow calls, the reason that you outsource phone calls or you don't get to the calls, is because there's too many calls coming in. Like you said, the doctor's standing there, the hygienist is here, there's 2 calls ringing. And the issue with the phone calls is we treat them with the same amount of importance, right? Maybe you can look down and see if it's a new patient or existing patient, but we're really, all those calls coming in are the reason we have so much chaos at the front desk. So what AI will be able to do, what Margot's going to be able to do, is she's going to be able to handle the calls and then send only the revenue generating calls to the humans and handle the other ones. So directions to the office. You want to pay a bill? Great. Let me send you a link. You want to update your insurance? Give me your insurance and we'll update it in the software. She'll be able to handle more of the busy work so that the human can handle the things that are important that the humans need to handle. And so what we want to do is, instead of having so much activity coming into the phones, lower the amount of activity at the phone so the humans have more time to do the important stuff and let AI do the other things. So that would be the reason to have AI answer the phones first, to know what's the intent of the phone call and then know where it needs to go, right? Is it rescheduling an appointment? AI is going to be able to do that, right? I can help you reschedule an appointment. The human won't even have to handle that. Is it paying a bill? Great. I can send you a text. You can pay the bill and just click the link. Like, there's things like that we can lower the number of calls at the front desk. Now the employees have more time to spend with patients, be on the phone.
Thanks for clarifying that, because I did talk to a very big company, US based in Australia, and in 2 calls, one for 15 seconds, one for 30 seconds, I was referred to a person straight away for simple tasks that I thought it should have been able to organize. And I thought, that's going to upset callers. Like, why am I talking to this machine? It's just, why didn't the person pick up in the first place? So it's great if the AI can do the tasks that are simple for it to do, because I've also heard people who are historically stuck, who haven't crossed that bridge, that an AI can reschedule an appointment, can schedule an appointment. You can program it to put the appointments where you want them in your pre-blocks and your templates, not just one on top of the other on top of the other. Oh, this day's
Right.
full, let's move to the next day. And you've got, lots of what one of my colleagues calls rats and mice work, as opposed to the luxury work. And so
The other thing I would add to that is AI is new. So we have to teach it. We have to train it. Like, it's learning right now, right? It's learning your dental office. So like Margot, for example, we've trained Margot to be the best receptionist possible for a dental office. But then when we plug it into your office, it needs to start to learn the idiosyncrasies of your office, right? And so that's where it's going to get better, where it starts to really know how your office operates, how you want things to be handled. Then you can start to trust it more as the AI gets better, like we talked about. Literally every month it gets better. It's also learning your office and your team and your procedure and your doctors at the same time, so that when it can do things in the future, it's already been in and gotten the information and the data that it needs.
it's interesting. A friend was telling me about the first time that a computer beat Bobby Fischer at chess. I'm saying Bobby Fischer. It might have been the Russian guy. I don't know. Anyway, the computer beat him at chess, and that was based on historically learning the moves that let's say Fisher had done in hundreds of thousands of games beforehand. But now the computer is so powerful, it doesn't need to know the history. It can predict the future by thinking that far ahead of every possibility. It doesn't need to know historically, oh, if he moves here, he's going to move there next, because they know that when you move here, you're thinking to move in this direction. And so in terms of the human race, computers will have the power to say, we don't need humans at all for
Right.
these sorts of things, except for someone to plug in the socket, so they can run. But really, there's a lot of things that computers are taking the place of human beings. We're seeing it with car automation now, that thieves are stealing cars because they can read the remote control for your key inside your house. They can read that from outside and then start your car, because you don't have to put a key in a
Right.
in a door or a key in an ignition anymore. So sometimes technology's gone too far. How do you see? Let's just slip away from AI. Let's just slip away from dental reception. Do you ever see AI actually drilling teeth?
Good question. The one thing we don't know about AI is we don't know where it's going to end up, right? So, I think about, we were talking about this before we started, think about surgeries, right? Think about the way we used to do surgeries 50 years ago, shoulders, my husband had a knee surgery, right? And then think about the robotics now and the technology and CAD CAM x-rays and all of that. So yeah, they 50 years ago, they probably didn't think they could, see the things that they can see now. The one thing that AI is not going to be able to do, though, is it's not going to be able to that chairside manner, that taking, human to human connection. And so I think that leaning into the technology, being open to AI is important, but also we need to look at us as humans now and say, okay, well, where are we going to be? Where do we fit into this puzzle? Because if AI technology is doing dentistry, if it's answering phones, if it's submitting claims, if it's, doing perio probings, well, then where's the human side of things? And the two things that I'm concerned about with our industry is that the humans are not as well trained on the human side of things, the soft skills, like the things we were talking about. So we really need to lean into the soft skills, because that's what the humans bring. And the second thing is, our industry is addicted to being busy. We're always busy. Everyone's busy all the time. We're busy. Well, AI is going to make us less busy. So what do we do with that time when we're efficient? And it's a cultural change. I think that's just in general. My husband and I were just talking about this with our AI, and he said, in the future, you'll be able to do this with AI. And I said, in the future, I'm going to sit at the kitchen table and I'm going to tell AI to go do it from here. Like, I won't have to go to a computer and tell it. I'll have some version of something where I just say, hey, go make this PowerPoint for me. And I never have to get up from the kitchen table and my coffee, right? So what will it do in dentistry? None of us can really know, but I do think that there are huge benefits to AI and where it's going. But we also have to balance, where do we fit into that, right? Keeping human in the loop, keeping the human side of things.
Well, you're right. You raised a smile on my face when you said chairside manner, and because some dentists don't have it at all. Some dental assistants don't have it at all. Sometimes, as you know, when you have a replacement dental assistant, they just want to yak all the time, and you're thinking, hang on, there's a person down here who really wants you to concentrate on what's going on and not be talking about what your plans are for the weekend. Or so it's all about culture in your practice. And I guess you've got to train an AI to have the culture if they're answering the phone, so that it duplicates what the person who it's replacing in doing those menial tasks, easy, simple tasks that sometimes are an interruption, so that people don't get desensitized to it being a machine.
Sure. And here's the thing, though. Once you train AI and it's working and you're monitoring and stuff, you don't have to train it again.
No.
So I could teach AI culture. Like, for example, Margot is trained based off of front office rocks how to answer the phones. She is better than most humans at answering the phones, she understands the concept. Now, does she still sound a little odd? Yeah, but it's going to get better as technology gets better. But Margot and AI doesn't come into work in a bad mood. They don't stay up all night with sick kids. They're not hungover. She can answer 50 calls when I would be exhausted if I had 50 calls. So yes, that's important. And we want to make sure that we're training the AI just like a human, the way we just said that, answering phones, this is how we want it done. But then once it's trained once, you don't have to train it again, which is huge, because with turnover in dental office, right, we're training over and over and over again. So that's one of the big aspects of AI that I love, is that it gets it. And when it gets it, finally, it's good.
We're at a point at the moment down in Australia that it is very hard to get consistent staff. There's no excess of staff applying for dental office positions, be it dental reception, dental chairside, steri nurses, even hygienists and oral health therapists. There's a shortage. So, I saw somebody who looked at AI and she goes, "Oh, we need that in our office because we just can't get enough staff to do all the jobs. So we've got people multitasking." And so
Mhm.
the receptionists are doing some steri and then while they're doing steri, somebody else comes and answers the phone who's not trained on the phone. So the whole level of customer care drops because we don't have enough people. I don't know if it's like this in the US, but on top of that, you can't sack anybody in Australia for using up more than their allocated sick days. If somebody's too sick to come to work, you just got to have enough people to cover for them, or you've got to have people working over. So I'm coaching one office at the moment where 2 or 3 of their staff they're away 1 day out of 4 after 3 months. That's really hard to run a business. If you're running a big organization like a department store where you've got plenty of people to call on and you can move people around, not so difficult. But in a
Absolutely.
dental office, like 3 to 10 people, that's a significant difference if 2 are off all of a sudden every day.
Right.
Somebody's away and they're sick. And then when they come back, then they go on vacation.
Yeah, right. It's kind of like a patient running late and they're like, "Can I go to the bathroom?" Right. So one of my newest topics that I'm talking about this year as I start speaking is what the future of dentistry looks like starting today. And I really think that there's 4 parts to it. There's your internal team, like you're just talking about, like what do we do with the internal team and the people that are physically there, and how do we enhance that? The second is outsourcing, because we've become generalist in a dental office where we can do a ton of different things, but there are some things that really do require attention, really do focus, like insurance or AR or reactivation calls or whatever, where you can outsource that to somebody who's just focused on that. The third is AI. I think of AI as being a new team member on our team. And eventually, I believe that everybody will have their AI assistant. So I'll have one, and you'll have one, and someone else will have one, and we'll be able to clone ourselves in the tasks that we do with AI. And then the last one is really our technology partners, right? The softwares that we're working with, your whatever, your intraoral, all the companies, because all of these softwares and companies that we work with in our practices, like we just said, technology is growing faster than ever. So it's not like you go to a annual meeting once a year and you're like, "Hey, what's the new bell and whistle you have?" They've developed a new bell and whistle last week, and we need to keep abreast as to what are the new things that they're developing. But also we need to understand how the technologies are going to work together, because at some point in the future, I believe Margot is going to be able to answer the phone, and she's going to connect with the AI that calls the insurance, and it's going to connect with the scheduling AI that's going to put the patient in the schedule. And when I walk in on Monday morning, the new patient's going to be scheduled, the insurance is going to be verified, we know everything about them, all the paperwork's filled out, and the human was never in the loop on that. And so we have to start thinking about our technology partners too in the practice. So there's really kind of 4 parts to me of like, how does the future look? Because hiring is not going to get easier. Now there's going to be a whole influx of change going on, and we really need to start being open to the fact that the way dental offices run today is not the way they're going to run in the future.
It's interesting you talking about verifying insurance. It's a term I've heard a lot through my travels to the US. Still doesn't happen in Australia. Insurance is you can just do it, and
Wow.
an audit will pick up if you've been bad.
Wow.
But you don't have to deal with somebody who's got no dental brain sitting in an office looking at x-rays and deciding that you need to do certain things a certain way, telling you how to practice dentistry. On the other hand, in Australia, it is now imperative that every patient who turns up at your office and gets some form of treatment recommendation is told dentistry is expensive, you need to get a second opinion. Every dentist has to have that on their website and tell every patient, basically saying, "I could be ripping you off. Go and get a second opinion." It's so offensive that the profession has allowed that. Again, that's just someone in government dictating that.
Mhm.
It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen in building, which is the
Right.
biggest expense people have. Doesn't happen in automobiles, which is the second biggest expense. Really, the cost of an implant it's close to about the cost of a lounge.
Right.
Let's treat
Yeah.
it in that respect, and easily replaced, but somehow dentistry is elevated up to the price of a building, and people can, in building, some of their warranties are only 2 years. Oh, that movement, sorry, that's just part of building in
Yeah.
your $50 house. So it's crazy the importance that verifying something in insurance. And I know in the US, they can tell you that if you're doing 2 fillings on one tooth, I think it's the same down here. You're doing 2 separate fillings on one tooth, 2 small one surfaces on one tooth. That's a 2 surface because it's on one tooth. But if they were 2 separate fillings on adjacent teeth, they would be okay because they're on different teeth. Yet it's the same procedure. It just happens that one's on the occlusal, one's on the buccal. Can't do them both at the same time, but they tell you that it has to be a different code because it's a factor of the surfaces. To me, I hated insurance.
Yeah.
Practice fee for service, I've so much enjoyed that. I didn't help them with codes, but what it was what it was.
Yeah. Well, and that, again, that's a cultural thing that you talked about. And then back to what I've been talking about of the importance of training your team. Like, people are going to spend more to come to your practice. They've got to feel like they're getting exchange for what they're spending their money on. And they will. And maybe there's going to be some patients who don't. That's okay. They're not suited for your practice. There's another practice that will see them, right? We don't have to be the dentist for everyone. We just need to be the best dentist we can for our patients and for our team. I tell patients team members all the time, we don't work for the insurance companies. We work for our dentists and our patients. Like, that's our ultimate goal. And insurance is part of the game. It's not going to go away. It's part of the scenario, but we need to realize, like, our ultimate goal here is to help our patients keep their teeth for life. That's why we are here.
Absolutely. Every decision that a dentist really should be making for the patient is based on their health and
Right.
keeping them in the healthiest state they can be. But it's sad, since I retired from being a dentist, endodontics is not even offered as an option because it's seen as, well, it's only going to last a certain amount of time, that root canal. So you may as well just pull it out and put an implant straight in and just skip that temporary step. That's really scary because
Mhm.
there's people out there who have had root canals that have lasted their whole life,
Right.
traumatic injuries, and the teeth are still there and restored and fine. But to be so black and white about all root canals are going to fail, or even, isn't there an article? Wasn't it a Reader's Digest article that said that root canals cause cancer?
Right. Well, there was a Netflix thing about it. Like, there was a
Yes,
whole Netflix thing, right, that they ended up taking down, I think, which again is why it's so important to train your team members because, our patients come in and think they have a dental degree because they've, been told this, or they've watched a Netflix or read an article and they think they know more about dentistry than we do. So it's important that our team members, this is the soft skill side of things, are good at handling the insurance question, the cost question, the do I really need it question. And if we don't have humans to do that, who's going to do that, right? Because AI can do the other stuff, but who's going to be there to help with our patients to get them through getting the treatment done that they need?
it's interesting. And I'm going to go back to something that has been said in the past in dentistry. And you're an example of what is against this belief, as was my wife as well, because there was this belief that you can't work on the front office of a dental practice if you haven't been a chairside and you haven't come from the back to the front. It's, sometimes that knowledge is bad. With my wife, I had to replace, after I left my office, I had to replace a large CEREC that I did because a piece of tooth came off, and I had to place a crown. Now, Jane had transacted with plenty of patients on crowns, multiple crowns, but she never had one. So when we prepped it, she said, I didn't know it was that detailed. She said, you should have charged more.
Yeah.
Because her whole perception was this is the price of what it is, but she didn't know the amount of work that went into it, just only a time factor. Oh, he needs an hour. But when she saw the detail of it, I found that fascinating. And I guess that happens in life too. Sometimes we open the back of an electrical device and see there's nothing in it, and then we wonder what they charge for. And others, you say, whoa, that looks complicated. I need an expert to fix this as well. But just that perception.
Right.
And yet, as we were saying, people bring their perception of home and their values at home to work and then have to sell large transactions.
Mhm.
They're fearful of the cost of those transactions.
Yeah. There's two reasons. Like, I'm fine if somebody's had, chair side assistant and then they move up front, because they've got a good personality and they know all about the office, and that's great. But I'm also a fan of, like, for me, I'm glad I was never an assistant because I see all the time in dental offices where they'll pull the front office person because they have assistant training to come back and be an assistant for an hour because they need to get a sealant in or whatever. And now nobody's answering the phones. And so I always say, like, I'm glad I don't have the clinical skills. They never pulled me in the back because of that. The second thing is, I also, much like your wife and a lot of people who are coming into dentistry, we see the value of selling dentistry. We see the value of the work that needs to be done. We're business minded, not saying that you can't be business minded as a dentist or an assistant or hygienist, but it's the business minded things that says this doesn't make sense that we're discounting our rates by X amount for insurance, or we're giving all these discounts away. You do hard work. Your loans are huge. Like, the cost of this dentistry is a lot. Like, we should sell it for what it is. And it's never been the mindset really in dental to be that way. So I love the business mindset coming into dental offices.
Well, you have to have a business mindset. Ultimately, dentistry is a business, and if it's run
Right.
poorly, it's a very frustrating business, one, to work in. It's a frustrating business to be a customer of, not knowing that whether that business is going to be around next year for the customer when they need it. So dentistry does need to be profitable so that it is sustainable. Omar Reed used to ask every patient at the end, I've now finished your dentistry. Your needs here are purely maintenance, but you need to replace yourself. Otherwise, I'm going to be out of business and you're going to be looking for a new dentist. And so people would turn up at his office saying, I don't know why I'm here, but the guy I play golf with said I should come and see you about my teeth. And that's a pretty brutal way of putting it, but it's the truth. And you hear of dental offices where dentists just give discounts because that just comes out of their mouth without even thinking. And they've given away sometimes $250,000 a year for no reason, that they just felt that they should.
Well, I think that the hard part is, of course, they don't teach sales in dentistry, in dental school, right? But I think the other thing that's hard is you are the craftsman as the dentist. You're the one doing the work, right? It's like a plumber or an electrician or a lawyer, right? It's your services. And so when a patient says that's expensive or I can't afford it, or ultimately you think I'm charging too much because it's a skill, it's a craft that you do. It's not a product. You don't open it up and say, here's the thing. And so when we hear that's expensive, I think dentists go, oh, that means they say I'm charging too much. I need to give a discount. And when a patient says that's expensive or that's a lot of money or whatever, they're not saying necessarily you're charging too much or you need to give me a discount. They're just saying that's expensive. A crown is smaller than this little one piece thing I'm holding in my 1-inch thing I'm holding in my hand. And it's $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. It's okay for a person to go, that's expensive. That's a lot of money. And for you to go, it is, right? And then you could say all the things you say about dentistry could be more expensive if you don't take care of your teeth and all of that. But just to acknowledge for a human to go, that is expensive. I understand. But let me tell you again why you need it. And that's a sales process that dentists just a lot of times are not comfortable with. And then you send them to the front desk, they'll do it. And the front desk, they're making X amount an hour. And that is a lot of money. And they're like, yeah, it's a lot of money. And Mrs. Jones is scary. Every time I talk to her, she gets mean with me. So we let her go and she has to think about it. And then we don't get the dentistry done. Right. So the systems are kind of broken in there.
It's interesting. After I'd sold my office and I was working for a friend before the arthritis took over my body, I had to have a piece of my retina, a detached retina, reattached. And they can't numb your eye when they zap it. It is quite painful. And so my friend, who was my boss, said to me, he said, how long did that take? I said, I was there for about 5 minutes and I was like hanging on to the armrest because to stop me from punching the doctor. It hurt that much. And he goes, 5 minutes. He said, how much did it cost? I said, about half the price of a crown. He said, all right, so about $1,000. He said, so that's $12,000 an hour. He said, could you do half a crown in 5 minutes? No. He said, imagine what if you could, lining up 12 of those in an hour. He said, that'd be great, wouldn't it? He said, now look at what you do for a crown. That is really good value compared to the cost of the laser that got zapped in the back of your eye that hurt. Like interesting perspective. So, it's the old adage, the creaky floorboard, and somebody comes around and says, I've fixed it in 2 minutes and you charge me $500 to fix it. He said, that's because I know what to do, and so that's the skill in dentistry is knowing what to do, but everything is relative in terms of costs, I put everything back to the value, like talking about building costs and the value of an iPhone and how long an iPhone lasts and what you can do for it. It's really good value compared to hammers and nails and timber.
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly. And then I think the next step of that is for figuring out the value or feeling confident in the value of what you are giving. But then also hiring, if you're good at what you do, as you grow your business, you're going to have to hire team members, right? Like you're a good plumber, you're a good builder, you're a good dentist. You're going to get more busy that you need more people on your team. And that's where I think we drop the ball too, is we don't know how to hire well. So we just hire somebody that breathes or somebody that worked at someone else's office or somebody that says they know how to answer the phone and they're a people person. And you're looking at them going, you're not a people person. I can tell you're not, but I'll hire you. And then we wonder why our practices aren't growing. Well, we're not hiring well and we're not training well. And so we're dependent. And I tell dentists this all the time, like, is the name on the wall yours? And they working for you or are you working for them? Because if you're afraid to hold them accountable, to make them do the training, to work with them, to hold your culture, they work for you or do you work for them? Right. And I think that's where the cycle's kind of broken.
It is. And so many dentists haven't set their value statement, their culture and their mission statement. And you've got to look at who comes in the door and do they share those same values? Have they got that culture in them? Because it's very hard to train a culture.
Right.
It's very hard to do it. You can do it, but it's very hard to do it. Much easier to train skills than it is to train culture. In fact, one of my clients has just hired, she said, I've got a senior dental assistant, but she's got no experience because she's an older lady. But she said she's so keen. And here's the thing, she's just put on two new team members, non-dental, and she said they both turn up early and stay later because they are keen to make this work and keen to learn and keen to improve what they've been told to do. And that's the gold in dentistry. And getting back to full circle to where we started, can we train AI to have those values and that culture?
That's funny you asked me that. We didn't plan this, but I was just about to say, now circling back, I think that's and I hadn't thought about this till now. I think that's the human part of running the practice is the culture. So AI can, like for right now, for example, AI can write an email for me, right? I can say, help me write this email. I'm the one though that has to go, oh, no, that's too formal. I want it to be casual. I want you to make a joke in here because I would say something funny. Like that's the culture that I have, right? Or in my practice. So I think that we can teach AI somewhat by the rules, but I think that's where the humans are going to have the value, like keeping the culture intact and not letting, I mean, AI receptionists right now, they're on fire in so many dental offices. I don't know that I would want some of these receptionists answering the phones for my dental office, just like I would want some of the humans who answer the phone in dental offices. Like, so we need to really be holding that culture tight. And the question isn't AI or not. It's just, for me now, it's what AI, when, how, who's going to be managing it, where are we going to be using it, and how is it going to support us and what we're trying to do, not make it worse. Because if your office runs poorly already, AI is just going to emphasize that, just like any other software that comes in. If it's not running well, it's going to not run well, but just faster.
It's true. And the funniest thing I've heard with AI reception, one company said to me, I said, where do you get your data from? And they said, we get the dentist to tell the AI reception what to say. And I'm going, okay, how's that work? Most dentists have no idea what gets said to the receptionist on the phone. They never listen to phone calls, even though that's been around forever. And now they're going to instruct on a lesson, maybe something they've read, let alone a lecture they've been to, but not on repeat information. It is quite funny, but that's a perception of power. I said, that's kind of like buying a Ferrari and saying, here's your toolkit, you tune it up. You don't need
Right.
to tune a Ferrari. It's
Right.
built to be the best. But
Exactly. And that's really what my role was when I came on with Mango. I'm glad you said that, just because, Mango has thousands of phone conversations. Dentists know what technically should be happening in the phones, but they've never answered the phone like at a receptionist at a dental office. And a lot of people who answer the phones I've been teaching phone skills for a long time and they're still not good because there's not enough training going on. So teach AI the right way, and then have it, then it can, because one of the things we're going to do moving forward is we're actually going to coach humans using AI on how to make our humans better on the phone. So ultimately, we at Mango still want people to answer the phones. We want the humans to be amazing on the phones. So I have AI patients now that humans will be able to role play with, so we can teach them the phone skills and then practice themselves so that they're better on the phones. But that should be done by somebody who understands phones. You wouldn't want me back there teaching AI how to do a crown or how to perio chart. I don't do that. But I do phones. And you definitely want to make sure that the companies you're working with, the AI that you're working with, knows that thing, whatever it is that they're doing for your practice. And it's not just some company that came out who says, oh, look at this, dental makes a lot of money, I'll go work there. I'll build an AI something for them.
Yeah, sadly, the dental profession is a big target, not just in AI reception, but in lots of things, of selling things to dentists because they work too hard on dentistry that they don't even have time to do their due diligence on stuff. And so they're an easy prey for those sort of things. And hopefully the AI industry doesn't get a bad name for targeting dentists for that reason. Laura, we've run out of time. It's been great. We could have talked forever, but it's been great talking to you. How can people who have watched this get in touch with you to find out more about you and what you're doing, and also Mango and Margot?
And Mango, Margot, and all the things. So I have a group on Facebook called Brush Up on AI. I wrote a book, A Brush Up on AI, that's for dentists, of how to implement AI in the practice. So if you search my name, you can find me in all the social media places, and then come to Mango and get a demo. I mean, Mango, like I said, is the best. I haven't said this, but it is the best phone company in our industry. And now we have AI and we have Margot, and we're building a bunch of amazing other things. So come to Mango. And then by the time this comes out, we'll also have our phone coaching program launched. So just search Mango Phones and my name, and I'm sure you'll find it in all the places that you go to for social.
All right. Well, Laura, it's must be coming up to dinner time over there now, is it?
It is. And I have a cousin in town from the East Coast. So I'm meeting him for dinner now. And it's probably seems like 8:00 to him, and it's morning for you. So we don't know what time of the day it is.
Yeah, it's not even lunchtime here yet. So nice chatting with you, and thanks very much for your time today, Laura. It's been great connecting with you again.
This is awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to another inspiring episode of the Ultimate Dental Podcast. We appreciate each and every one of you for being a part of our dental community and joining us each week on this incredible journey. If you found value in today's episode and you don't want to miss out on future episodes packed with expert insights and actionable strategies, here's how you can stay connected with us. Firstly, hit that subscribe button. Whether you're listening on your favorite podcast platform or watching on our website, subscribing ensures you'll never miss an episode. Secondly, share the love. If you know a fellow dentist or colleague who could benefit from the wisdom and knowledge that we share here, please share our podcast with them. Also, please share the podcast on your socials by simply clicking on the social icons wherever you view or listen to this podcast. Together, we can all do our bit to elevate the dental profession. And finally, stay engaged with us. We love hearing from you. Your questions, comments, and feedback fuel our mission to provide the best content for your professional growth, your personal growth, and for your practice growth. Remember, your journey to creating a dental practice and a business life that you love is our mission, and we're excited to be your trusted guide along the way. Thank you for being a part of the Ultimate Dental Podcast. Until next time, keep smiling, keep striving, and keep on tuning in to the Ultimate Dental Podcast.